All right, Moto Tubers, here we are in the shop. We've got a bike back on the lift that was here before, and it's actually still running great, and everything we did to it before, the customer absolutely loves, like the bars and some of the tuning and rebuilt carburetor and things of that nature. But I noticed when I was rebuilding the carburetor that this is a very old carburetor, probably dating back into the 90s. So I suggested to him if he has any issues with it that we should just buy a new one and replace it. So that's what he wants to do. Also, there's a oil line down here that's leaking pretty bad. I'm going to get in there and replace the oil line for him. So just a returning customer, which we always like. Hey Moto Tubers, well, we've got this 1995 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200 back in the shop. It's back in the shop because the customer has asked to put a brand spanking new S&S carburetor on it, fully tuned. Also, there's a small oil leak on the drain hose of the oil bag, so we're going to be doing an oil change and a hose swap on that. And he also wants a Harley-Davidson quarter fairing installed on the bike. So we got him a quarter fairing that we're going to be putting on the front of the bike. So let's go ahead and get to it. Well, we got the carburetor removed from this Sportster 1200. It was an S&S Super E shorty carburetor. As you can see, pretty simple to remove. You take off the front mounting plate, loosen the back 2 Allen bolts, and it comes right off the intake manifold. Don't forget to turn the fuel off before you pop your hose off, and of course your to and from return throttle cables. Always remember your return throttle cable is the one with the spring on it. Now, there is something to be said for S&S carburetors and throttle cables. You must get S&S throttle cables. That's another thing we're going to be upgrading on this bike, is a brand new set of S&S throttle cables to fit the new S&S carburetor. But keep that in mind, you cannot reuse your stock throttle cables with a S&S carburetor. They just don't work correctly. All right, and that's it. We're gonna go ahead and move on to installing the fairing now. Up next, we're going to be draining the oil, changing the oil filter, and replacing the oil drain line that's leaking. Probably been on there since 1995, which is probably why it's leaking. So new hose, new clamps, new oil, new filter. Here we go. No visible cracks, no air cracks, no air escape. This piece is still good to use. There's a little spinning knob under here that they call a throttle lock. This throttle lock is extremely dangerous. I've had several friends get into some real hairy situations and accidents because they locked their throttle and all of a sudden something happened up ahead and their throttle couldn't be untwisted to throttle down. And that's what this is. This is a throttle lock. People call it a cruise control. It's very dangerous. So for most of my customers and bikes I work on, especially the bikes I sell, I actually take that entire assembly out of there. There's also another reason I do that. It's because the shoe pad that's inside there that presses up against this throttle tube housing, can sometimes just stick in there or break, and then you've got pieces of plastic in there affecting your throttle control. And if you ride anything more than to the restaurant on Sunday mornings for breakfast, you need to make sure you've got good throttle control for your motorcycle. You want your throttle to be what I call snappy. You'll see when I'm done with this throttle what I mean, but if you've got a shoe pad up in there, compressed down with this screw in throttle stop, you have lost control of your throttle, and that's really dangerous. So I highly suggest you guys take these out completely. Take the whole housing out, the whole assembly out, the shoe, the screw, take it all out, free your throttle up, and allow yourself throttle control. If you're that lazy that you need to lock your throttle into place for that long, I don't know, maybe ride more and build up your arm muscles more so you can hold your throttle in place. I don't know what to tell you, but those things are dangerous. I highly suggest you take them out. I already did that for this motorcycle, and I always let the customer know why I do it and why I suggest doing it, and this particular bike has already been removed, so he's good to go. All we need to do is get some new throttle cables in here. And also, Mototubers, I wanted to say I did a little more research on the throttle cables for an S&S. S&S, in some cases with their carburetors, you can actually use the stock throttle cables in the S&S carburetor. Now, Mikuni carburetors, you have to have throttle cable specific cables, Mikuni cables. So just be aware of that. If you're upgrading your carburetor or you're switching it away from the stock carburetor, just know that sometimes you need to swap out the throttle cables. These ones are getting swapped out because they're old. They've been in here for 40 years. The actual cable is rusted. Parts of the throttle cable housing, like on this one, is actually worn through because of poor routing of the cables, which is everything that we'll also fix with the new cables. These are old and rusted and just need to be replaced. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, there you go. Old and rusted, need to be replaced. got this carburetor installed off camera. It's brand spanking new S&S carburetor. And we're gonna go ahead and start the bike up now.